meeting. We want to make sure we're starting promptly because we have to be out of here at 5 o'clock, like prompt. That was one of Mayflower's restrictions. But thank you all for coming out to learn a little bit about what's going on with the Oxford House. It is an interesting situation for the neighborhood, but just to make sure that everyone's questions get answered and any concerns get answered, the format of today is Dan, he's with the Oxford House. He's going to give you some information about their program and allow some of their participants to talk about their story and what they've experienced with that. That will be for about 15 to 20 minutes. Then from there, we'll open it up to questions and answers. And just to make sure all the questions get answered, I'll walk around with the microphone. And whoever has the microphone can ask the question. We want to make sure that this is orderly because they've been through this before. And if people start yelling at them and saying things that they are just unfounded, they were told to just leave. So if we want our questions answered, we need to keep things orderly and respectful. Thank you, our state representative Cindy Munson is here. Senator Yen is also here in the back. So we have some people also, some representatives here from the state, local governments. Okay, well, Senator, he knows a little bit about this as well. So thank you so much for coming, both of you. And I'm going to give this off to Dan.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to personally thank you on behalf of myself and Oxford House about any time that I can, I want to start off by first, I understand your concerns. I really do. But the first thing that I want to start off by saying is that I want to ask, do you all agree that alcoholics and drug addicts have an opportunity to stay sober for life? Do you all agree that that's possible? Okay, what I most commonly run into, not just in this situation, but I spent my life fighting the stigma that once an alcoholic, once a drug addict, you're put in a box and you're not you have no chance of being successful. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and my story, but I want to assure you going into this that I'm not alone. I had a normal childhood, graduated high school, got married, and at 26 years of age was divorced. And at the time I was divorced, I was Midwest United States sales manager of the largest auto parts company in the world. I lost everything I had due to my drug addiction and alcoholism, and through the course of 10 years, found myself a felony a year. I was in and out of prison, but the thing that was consistent is when I got out of prison, I always went right back to the same place. I had nowhere else to go. And when I moved into Oxford House the first time, I moved in, and I've been sober since July 18th of 2007. And Oxford House was a big part of that, and the reason being is I moved into a place that I fought to keep. I never thought when I was in prison, I was always trying to figure out how am I going to get these things back that I've lost, and they always dumped me right back in the same situation. And I was lucky enough, some guys I heard a presentation about Oxford House and I went. Today I'm the outreach coordinator for Central Oklahoma, and I lived in Oxford House in Wichita, Kansas. Okay? What Oxford House is, and I understand, the general public at large does not think that addicts and alcoholics can take care of themselves. See, the difference is that we're not practicing alcoholics and drug addicts. We attend 12-step meetings. We have sponsors. And if we don't do those things, we find a new place to live. I knew there were some clear rules about some understandings when I lived in Oxford House. Today I'm married and I've given my life to this organization. And the things that I learned when I was in there is if I didn't go to meetings and I didn't get a sponsor, or if I used or drank, I would lose my place to live. And from the first time that I moved into Oxford House, it was the nicest place, especially considering my financial condition and where I was at in life and all the things that had happened to me. I was a product of my environment, and that's what addicts and alcoholics are. Is a product of our environment. You take a recovering alcoholic or a drug addict and you put them in the neighborhood that they've always been an alcoholic or a drug addict in, the same exact thing is going to happen. Okay? And what Oxford houses are is no different than the houses that you live in. The only difference is there's maybe a few more people that live there. This particular house in this neighborhood will have 9 men living there. Okay? Those 9 men will all be expected to go to meetings, they'll be expected to pay rent on time, and they'll be expected to do household chores, keep up the yard, things of that nature. The only thing negative that I have no defense of in this neighborhood is that there'll be cars legally parked in front of it in the 3 spaces in the street and in the driveway. There may be more cars than you would personally like there, but it's still within the law. Okay, and we are going to operate in that house as a family. There is going to be transition here. Membership will change, but over time the transition gets less and less. It's a therapeutic community of sobriety. Okay, the house will be set up to where any of you at any time can come in and look at it and see what we're doing here. Come to the house meeting, see what we're about. Your neighborhood association, I can assure you that this house will be very gracious in donating to it. The one thing I want to tell you about Oxford House, I don't have much time. It's really tough to tell you about something that I'm so passionate about in a short amount of time. But I see people's lives change every day. Not only do people get sober, they stay sober. And they do it because they're listening to someone that's gone through the same disease. When you move into a house, Keith here is going to be the first resident at the Royal House, and he has over a year of sobriety. I'm going to be right by his side through this process. And when people move into that house, they're going to come in finishing treatment, ready to do well. People come to our houses voluntarily. They make a decision to call the number, and when they call that number, they're looking for accountability. They're not looking to continue doing the same thing. Okay, and there's no way I'm going to convince everybody in this room of how great we are or how perfect things can be. But what I can tell you is that every house I've ever opened in this situation, I just opened a house right by Memorial High School in Edmond, just north of Memorial High School, 2 years ago. And I had this situation has already gotten legal. Okay, there's already been lawyers involved that quick. That situation didn't happen there, but we had neighbors knocking on the door all the time and me speaking to them and let them in and let them see what we're doing. I'm the type of person, I'm there last Christmas and the entire house is full of cookies and cakes and from the neighbors bringing them over. And that's what I live for. That's my life. This is not about Oxford House. This is not about the house moving in your neighborhood. It's about an understanding of what alcoholism and drug addiction is. There's a big difference between practicing and not practicing. Okay, a big difference. Someone returns to active drug use or alcohol use in that house at 15 minutes to leave. A check will be given to them for any rent that they owe the house and they'll leave. There's not, the members are democratically accepted into a family, not into a facility. It's a family living together. It's like a lifeboat. And everybody in it's fighting to stay sober. There's sponsorship and 12-step meetings, and recovery is going on in that house. I can stand up here all day and tell you all the great things we're going to do. What I can tell you is that we're going to open this house, and we're going to leave the door open to you to come into it anytime you want. And a year from now, I can promise you, because I've been doing this a long time, and I'm not alone. Okay, go to Oxford House. You can go to oxfordhouse.org and watch all our videos. We were just featured on Meredith Vieira. All these great things that's going on within our organization. But this house is not alone. There's not only these gentlemen here, but there's 41 other houses in the area that are watching out for the success of this house. It's not, and they're not going to all be running through your neighborhood. That's not what's going to happen. That house is held accountable. It's a member of Chapter 2 of Oxford House of Oklahoma City. And that chapter oversees the success, with my guidance, oversees the success of that house. We are a nonprofit. When I first got sober, I lived in Joplin, Missouri. I lived in a sober living home with the house manager, and he made a profit off that house. And through that process, I saw decisions made about allowing people to stay there once they've used, if they owe the guy money, things of that nature. No one's profiting in this house except those residents. Steve here lives at the Dimmer house. Steve, how much finances do you carry in their house at a given time?
7,000.
They have $7,000 to $8,000 in their checking account right now. And what that money is used for is to help other houses in need, help other addicts and alcoholics. Put on this Thanksgiving, we're having our citywide Thanksgiving dinner at their house, and we're renting a big tent, putting it up, and the neighbors love them. If I put a tent in front of that house, you guys would be upset. But over time, that's what's happened in that neighborhood. They're embraced by it. Okay, and I know what the stigma of sober living is. I know. But what we are is a family, and classified as such through the Federal Fair Housing Act. Our residents are classified as disabled and either a single-family dwelling, living, fighting the disease of alcoholism and drug addiction one day at a time. We're no different. The worst thing that's going to happen at this house, the worst possible thing that could happen, is somebody celebrates a year of sobriety, and we have some cars throughout the city come over to help us, a person celebrate. Or we evict someone and have to show them what to put, take them outside and see to it that they leave. The one thing I want to tell you is I oversee 41 houses in central Oklahoma, and it's been 2 years since we've missed rent on a house. Out of 41 houses, and the rent payments are anywhere from $1,800 to $2,600 a month. Active drug addicts and alcoholics cannot do that. Active drug addicts and alcoholics spend their money. We contribute to society, we pay taxes, no different than we do. We just come together as a group to stay sober. And as I stand in this church today, I want to tell you that I have never in my life been around an organization that has any more love and respect for communities, fellowship, what life is about. The only way I'm going to convince you of that, is through our actions. That's all I can do. You know, and this is no disrespect to anyone in here, but I've been with my wife the last 3 days bawling my eyes out about the mean and terrible things that have been said to me through email and phone call about what this house is. I've never been in a situation where people have lashed out over what we're trying to do is just help people stay sober. Where are we supposed to send them? That's what I want to know. Where are they supposed to go? As long as they're not where anybody can see them, I guess that's okay. So we can just send them back into the neighborhoods where they've always committed crime, and as long as there's no humanity in that. There's no humanity in that. And I know that so you all know this, I have 11 felonies in 4 states. I lost access to my granddaughter. My son wouldn't talk to me. Today I lay over 8 years sober, and everything's been given back to me, and I owe what I owe that to is a sponsor in 12 Steps, Alcoholics Anonymous, and Oxford House. Now I'm not alone. DePaul University has done studies on us for the last 15, 20 years, and those are available online where you can look at them. If a person completes 18 months in an Oxford House, they have an 86% chance of lifetime sobriety, and I've seen it come true over and over and over again. We are not a fly-by-night organization. We're not going to disrespect you. Other than those cars, other than the 3 out front and up to 4 in the driveway, that's the only thing that we're going to do to disrespect your neighborhood. I promise you, the shrubs will be trimmed. The gentleman will be there to open the door and invite you in at any time. So there's a whole lot more I'd like to tell you. And I just don't have the time. I want to give Steve here a chance to speak a little bit about what Oxford House did for him.
Hi, my name is Steve. I lived in Oxford House for a number of years. I got out of prison, and I knew that if I went back to my hometown, which is Marlow, Oklahoma, where I was born and raised, all the friends I partied with lived there. It wouldn't work. Someone mentioned to me about Oxford House. So I looked into it. I moved in there. I've been there ever since I got out. I've got over 10 years clean and sober today. I started a business here in Oklahoma several years ago when I got out. We've grown that business now. I have offices in 5 states. I have over 150 employees. I still live in Oxford House. There's a reason for that. Sometimes I ask myself, why am I doing that? But I know why I do it. I do it because it gives me a chance to give back what was given to me. You know? And same as Dan, everything that I had lost because of my alcoholism, I've got back. And so much more. just like your neighborhood in Windsor Hills. We've been there for close to 10 years. Our neighborhood loves us. We mow our neighbors' yards. We rake all the senior citizens' leaves. They come over our house for our Thanksgiving. You know, everybody loves us, and it will be the same with your neighborhood. I've seen so many people's lives change through our house, and that's one of the reasons I'm still there, is because it's just a constant seeing miracles happen. Every one of these guys is a miracle. They all live in our house. A couple of years ago, someone told me, they said, "Why didn't you not apply for a pardon?" And I said, "You've done so much to help people in the last 10 years." And I thought, well, I never really thought about it, you know. So I did that, applied for a pardon about 3 months ago. I went for the pardon parole board, and they looked over everything I'd done, and I got a unanimous vote. And about 6 weeks ago, Mayor Fallon signed my pardon. So, you know, this is what Oxford House does. Come on, Mayor. And we understand where you're coming from. I understand where you're coming from. I didn't understand alcoholism and addiction for a number of years, and I was an alcoholic. But I've seen what Oxford House is. I'm real involved with Oxford House. You know, I'm our reentry chair. I do work with the Department of Corrections sometimes. I want you to know that we only take alcoholics and addicts. We don't take anyone that has any prior sex offense charges, violent charges. We are strictly a non-violent drug and alcohol. All right? And we do work with people, you know, that are coming out of DOC sometimes. As you know, we're in a lock-em-up mentality right now, you know, for non-violent drug offenders. And so, but not everybody. Some people just come to us, you know. They want to get sober. They come. They've been through treatment. They know they need to find a safe and sober place to live where they have the support that they need, and we're here. Oxford House is here for them. You know, I'm who I'm at today because a neighborhood gave us a chance. And we're asking for people in your neighborhood to get a chance. I'm sure some of you have had family members who have had alcohol and drug problems. And wouldn't it be great if they would have had a chance at Oxford House like we've had a chance? And everyone, I'm just one of hundreds and hundreds of success stories in Oklahoma City with the Oxford House. And each one of these guys is the same way. You know, I understand where you're coming from. We're just asking you to give us a chance to see what you want, and you make your decision. I think you're going to find that we're going to be the best neighbors. We keep the houses up. We mow the yards. You know, we rake the leaves. You know, we're quiet. We're all in bed by 10:30. You know, my house, you go to my house at 9:30 and every light's out and everybody's in bed because we all work long hours. You know, some of us got 2 or 3 jobs. You know, so that's all I've got to say. And I really appreciate you guys coming out. To be honest with you, I'm really nervous about doing this. You know what I'm saying? But I really appreciate it. And it gives us a chance to kind of spread the word about, you know, that recovery is happening in Oklahoma. You know, recovery does happen here. You know, we can change Oklahoma, you know, one addict and alcoholic at a time. We don't have to lock everybody up and spend all this money on incarceration. Just people coming in and out, in and out, in and out. We have an answer to keep them out. That's all we're asking. Thanks.
Guess we can open it up for questions. Let's just start with this thing.
I'd like to applaud you guys for what you're doing. I think it's great and fantastic. And I'd like to just say that I was just kind of wondering, what are you doing to prevent? Are you going to have any kind of programs that you are helping the young people where you can teach them something to keep them off of getting on drugs and alcohol in the first place? Because we have a society where so many of our young people are just so gullible and doing different things, and I think if you can prevent it before it gets started, I think that would be a really good way to.
And absolutely would. You know, from our perspective, what we try to do, and it's such a big task. You know, first thing I want to add is the word got out. We just did a training for probably 75 residents up at Ocarta a little bit ago about how, you know, new members coming in and training them, giving them information on how to work their houses. And the word got out that we were coming to do this. I could fill this room with one phone call with people just like us. And before we get too far, I want you I didn't pick a select group. I know that's what you're thinking. I got 67 people I can go in and tell you the same thing. But as far as answering your question, well, where we're at is catching someone before they make a bad decision. They've already made that decision, and they are either in treatment, okay, treatment, or completed a detox, okay, and then they come and interview with our house. Now, when they interview, it takes an 80% acceptance to get in. So we're right there, and we're so overwhelmed. My phone normally rings at such a level I can't keep up with it. So, you know, as a group, we're just so in tune with catching people coming out of the mistake or out of the problem. That answers your question.
Could I speak?
Oh, and then you, Charles. You want the mic?
I don't think I need it. My name's Bruce Wyckoff. I moved into this neighborhood in March.
Oh, let me hear. Thank you.
Okay.
Turn the microphone. Sorry, I missed it.
My name's Bruce Wyckoff. I moved into Edgewater in March, so I've been here this long. In '97, my wife and I bought our dream house in Rollingwood, and about 3 to 4 years later, an Oxford house moved in next door. So I've got about 15 years experience with having a next door neighbor, which is an Oxford house. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of positives, there's a lot of negatives. It's not the worst thing that can happen to a neighborhood, I don't think. But in fairness to you guys, it was a boarding house. And you have people coming in and going out. That's how it works. In our particular case, they had the show house in the neighborhood, and they didn't keep it up. And in fact, it was the worst house in the neighborhood. Happened right next door to me. By the time we finally moved out of there, we sold that house in May of last year. So we were there a long time. You know, we were that couple that took cookies over at holidays, and you know, some of the experiences were pretty good. You know, some of the guys were real nice, and we got to know them. But as in my mind, and I understand what you're trying to do here. And I understand these guys, I got to know a lot of them. But, you know, I didn't choose to be a part of that program. I became a part of that program because you guys moved in next door. And to be honest, in my mind, and my wife's mind, kind of ruined our dream house. So, I'm not as polished, I don't say like you guys do, but that was our experience. Not the worst thing that can happen to you. They are quiet. They're like any neighbor could come in with a loud car or motorcycle if they want to tune up every Sunday morning at 7 o'clock or something like that. We had that experience. But, hey, you're right. I mean, my desire is just to make sure that maybe we have someone in contact if the yard isn't being cared for. And if the cars do become a problem, and it does get noisy, that's what we did not have over in Rollingwood where I lived. I knew the guy that owned the house, but he was pretty non-responsive. So that's all I'd ask I do know enough to know there's nothing we can do about it, guys. There's nothing we can do about it except for just communicate and talk. And that's about all I've got to say about it.
I don't necessarily, I don't think I need Mike, I got two people.
Do you want to respond to that? Or?
Yes, I do. I want to respond to his comment real quick. He's got some valid points there. I was hired 3 years ago and I was brought into this area because of negative things that were going on. The person that held my position before I got here was terminated, and I was brought in and I had some projects to fix, one of which being that house. Okay? The problem where we get into trouble when the symptoms that he's talking about occur, as far as the lack of upkeep and things like that, is when the members of the house quit going to meetings. And the chapter support and the things like that. He's right about the turnover, and unfortunately there's nothing I can do about it. People are going to come and people are going to go. The longer the house is there, the less the turnover is. You know, and initially, that house we're going to be very selective about who comes in. Okay? I'm going to be spending, any of you neighbors that want to come by, I will be in that house probably 3 days a week from 8 to 3 in there doing my normal daily work. Making sure that once the house gets started, then we can pull away. I do know there's some validity to what you're saying, and we're not perfect, and it does happen. I'm not gonna sit here and deny that, but I know that 3 years ago when I got hired, I came up with some specific things to fix. And I know that as a city, we have banded together tremendously, and I know that that yard situation would not be tolerated.
I want to respond to your observation of where else do you expect us to go. And I assume that because this neighborhood is stable and safe and clean and one-family residence, that's appealing to this program. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, well, and so what has happened here is that these are the people out in front of you are the people that provide this to you. And it's not that they're giving it to you. It's more like you're taking it. And you can understand the stress that might cause. In the first place, you say this is a single-family residence, and somebody judicially has decided that, I assume?
Yes.
Well, that's a pure fiction. Because it is a boarding house. I think you use that term. It's a boarding house, and the zoning laws and the plat restrictions of this neighborhood restrict it to single-family dwellings. And if somebody's calling it a single-family dwelling, is that the federal government?
Yes.
United States Supreme Court.
That's
This is
the
not
law
the place
there.
to have that discussion. This is not the place for that discussion. That's a legal discussion. And these guys aren't here to have a legal battle about what the federal government has already ruled and what many court cases have already upheld.
Thank you.
But the first, one comment, but the first half of what you said, I think is definitely worth listening to. It's not a given.
Well,
I know this is, we have what we call in Oxford House a model. A model. And a model is the operation, the consistent operation of our houses. Okay, I work for Oxford House Incorporated, and hanging on that wall will be a charter. And that wall will say that the house must be operated democratically. It must be financially self-supporting, and it must evict anyone that uses or drinks it. If one of those three things are ever breached, the chapter or myself, we can change the entire landscape of that house. But other than that, the house is just a group of addicts living in a family setting. Okay, and you're right, addicts are alcoholics, and you're absolutely right, there are going to be people coming and going. So the difference is that, and this kind of ties into what you were saying, and I'm sorry that you experienced that because it sounded like what's happening over there was a lack of recovery. It should be meetings and going to work. That's the extent of it. Pay your rent each week, go to work, attend a weekly council meeting, and live your life. And there are some valid points to what you're saying, and I do understand that.
Let's go with Gary, then here.
I don't know whether you realize it yet, but the particular house that you're located in is probably one of the worst locations you could have picked in a neighborhood. Because the only way the west side of Portland neighborhood can exit onto 63rd is down Shawnee. So there is substantially more traffic there, and therefore your car situation you talked about is going to be more of a problem and create more bad feelings. So you're going to have to be particularly careful, where you park your cars and everything, and try to make sure that there's not cars on both sides where you're blocking, the street in any aspect anymore.
Absolutely.
I can stand in here because I go there too. It's specifically, one of the problems is you're coming from where we are, north and just west of you. It actually blocks the view
doesn't say.
But, and, I mean, there's people that park on both sides sometimes already, which I wish they wouldn't do, but it actually does cause a safety.
Okay, where our parking is gonna be is directly in front of the house. And in the driveway, it's allotted for that property, nowhere outside. If I find out somebody parking outside there, there's gonna be, I mean, we've all, as a chapter, not just as me and Keith or me and Brandon, as a chapter, we've already discussed that, and that is the curb that has been purchased by the property owner, the curb there, up to the street, and then in the driveway and the garage.
Dan, let me just cut you off. I understand you've done your research, but whether it's our house or any house, or anyone, that corner, there are problems that you don't know about, because you don't live here. And that's fine, but I don't think you're gonna win that argument, because we all know that corner. And
No, I'm not.
it's very difficult to see around the corner.
I'm
So
just
so
telling
his
you,
point is a valid point.
we're gonna park where the law allows, according to our process.
We understand.
I have, but when
We have a question here.
I was just gonna say, when you're going down Shaw Means, look for the cars coming the other way, because we can't necessarily see you, and it's going to be your call.
So it's not a rush of my comments. I work a lot with the city, I work from the city, just for my day job, and that's something that they can't control. And all I can tell the neighborhood is that is an issue that you can bring to the traffic commission. I'm very new to the neighborhood myself. I've been in here a month, so I'm trying to be involved and stay tuned what's happening. But traffic commission, it sounds like is something that we as a neighborhood need to contact and say, hey, we've got a site issue, and they can make that area that's concerned no parking. It's not something that they can really control, because right now, it's completely legal. So I think maybe that's some of the neighbors who take the lead on it, and I would be happy to put everybody in contact with how to get that done. I've made certain changes in my day job in other areas. So just a side note to answer your question.
You can't really see around that corner now.
Stuart Chai, I've got his email address, his mailing address, and we can start the process of how to study them around that, if that's an issue. But, you know, it's gonna happen one way or another.
Or they could expand their driveway.
Or they can expand it, well, there's a way, you know, there's options, but I think we also can look at the city side, having the street change. But, you know, whether or not there's nothing that can be done to prevent the neighbor from them moving in, we can just move forward and try and make it a good partnership. They're holding the same standard as we are. If there's a noise complaint, you call the city. If there's illegal parking, whatever it is, you call the city. If there's a dilapidated car, whatever the issue is, you call the city. They're the only ones that can really pull that. And just, you know, beyond that, we're just trying to be the good neighbors.
My name is Colin Corp. I guess I've been in the neighborhood a little over a year. And I guess everybody in this neighborhood probably knows it takes a substantial amount of money to keep the house up. So I guess my concern would be, since you guys don't own the house and the house owner probably, I don't rent homes, and I know it takes money, and I want to make those homes nice because it's my interest. So whose interest is it financially to keep that house up as far as the garden and the lawn?
There's the homeowner right there.
There's substantial money.
Are you Mr. Wright?
So, okay, because I guess that's my concern is everybody in this place spends a lot of money on the garden and the driveway and all that stuff. And if it's not up to you, it's not going to happen, just like it did for this gentleman in the house that lived next to him. I have 12 homes, I've been encouraged to drive by.
We want to hear
I can't hear it.
Can't hear.
Well, maybe you should talk about your plan on how to keep it up, because I think that's pretty big.
Stand up, please.
I think that's what everybody's concerned about.
You want to address it?
Well, first of all, the Oxford House is responsible for maintaining and keeping it up. Separate from that, as far as major expenses, if there are any to be had, besides the fact, I own the house, the cash of the house, it's an investment. Yeah, I'm not going to let it go down, and I'm not going to do anything but it appreciate. But your first line of defense is the man that lived there. I also own another house that has appreciated greatly in the 3 years I've had it, and it's his Oxford house. And I'm just telling you, there's substantial money behind keeping this house up. And it's not something that Oxford doesn't do in part, I will step in to do my part. But the issues are really between Oxford and
Are you willing to share contact information, email, anything?
You know,
We're not.
well, this is really your house. This whole thing is happening because of you. So, I mean, we need your information. This is your investment. You chose to do it. Permission.
I'm a public person and figure, but in a situation like this, I don't want 85 people calling me, harassing me, doing other things.
How about
It only takes two or three.
How about just
Okay. So, no, you can go to Oxford, you can go to there, I'll give you, I mean, a few people have it. It's not-
Multiple people in this neighborhood found it pretty quick, so it's not that hard to find.
I'm Keith. I own my houses. I own several houses in nice neighborhoods. I'm real proud of my yard. I've had several houses in nice neighborhoods. I've also rented houses. I've had immaculate, real nice yards. And I'm real proud of my yard. I'm proud of my neighborhood. Get with the yard's not gonna be a problem.
Next question, please.
Ron, I was still living here 15 years or so. And one of the things that's come up here, thank you so much for your comments there. And you've been in charge of the Oklahoma City area for 3 years. He had a problem up in March, and it wasn't addressed, but you told us that those problems would be addressed.
March of this year, I thought he said it lived here over a year, but
No, that was where I lived in Rollingwood. I just moved out of there less than a year ago. I
You
lived
had a
in
problem
Rollingwood
for 3 years.
about 15 years.
I never received a call.
Well, that's our concern. You don't receive a call here, how do we know?
I did talk to Oxford House, the corporate office, a number of times. And, nice people. And I appreciate the ministry of what's going on there. And I also saw guys' lives get better and improve. Like you like your yard to be nice. Well, you'd have a guy come in that was a yard guy, and then he'd move on. Next guy wasn't a yard guy, and then deteriorated. It's the nature of the transit nature of that.
Folks, I can tell you right now, if we're gonna talk about something, if we're gonna talk about yards, my phone number's readily available. You call me, I'll come over.
No, my concern I was trying to address was what you're telling us and what he experienced were not done. The second thing
I
I
never received a call.
have a follow-up.
That's fair enough.
Why do you have to have 9 people there? Why can't there be 4 or 5 people when you do your thing? Why do you have to be in the office?
I can tell you.
Is it profit or non-profit?
Not
Oh, wait, just a minute. It's a profit to the owner.
It's not a profit to them, it's profit to
It's
him.
not a profit to them, but it is a profit to the owner. And by the way,
He's trucking red.
just 1 second, let me finish. And I've been in appointments, but I've lived here since 1967, and many of you in here have lived here for years and years. We knew your sweet mother and daddy, and they were, and you received this as a deed, as a part of a trust from first, given from trust first to your father, David. Can you hear me? Okay. The trust went first to your father, from your father to your mother, and then to the 3 children of you. And do we have a neighbor who lives next door to them? For all these years she wrote, where is she? He? Okay. Yes, okay, I'll get that back. I'm going to, tell me, okay, here's the point. Number 1, the owner does make profit, and you own how many now of Oxford houses? This is the second, but you have another, I think.
12 properties.
Right, and so, and by the way, I'm certainly not against anybody making profit, but at the expense of others, I do. And it will affect our property around this corner, from right now, when you coming from Lakepointe Drive and you turn the corner onto 68, you cannot see the cars that are coming from Shawnee or from 68 to the drive. It's already around the corner. And by the way, the owner does not own the curb. The owner, I'm a realtor, 30 years. We know that from 50 feet from the center of the road is city property. And so you don't own the curb.
You're correct.
And so, and then also, we have fire trucks that need to go through there. And we have school buses that need to go through there. And this is, and also we have children. This is a neighborhood that's valued for its family and for its children and for its safety. Okay, so I'm not talking more except to say that we just need to, I mean, the street makes a T there. It's a very dangerous thing. And you stood up and said we could call the traffic commission, but I don't know how. I mean, I can go.
And I also offered to give you all the information. I'm
Okay,
happy to help whoever
but
wants
we
to do
don't
it.
even know your name to know.
Well, I'm going to be here. I'm on next door. I'm not running out the door. I'm going to talk to him.
Okay.
We got it.
But could you give it, okay.
Yeah, well, I'll help anybody take care
There
of it.
were other people that were supposed to be speaking here.
All right, just a reminder, we have about
Because you have to
15
answer
minutes
this
left.
question though about why you would need that many, that you need that many residents.
I was hoping to get the opportunity to answer it. Okay, our houses are set up where we're effectively able to pay the amount that's required to pay the rent. Our organization intentionally sets up our model where we pay 15 to 20% more than a mom or a dad or a family that moved in. There's a reason for that because we need people like Mr. Wright. The things that they do for us enables all this to happen. So we make sure we want him to profit as an organization. Because every day, you folks have to understand that every day I'm receiving calls from all kinds of investors wanting to open houses. I don't have a hard time finding people who want to rent to us. And there's two reasons for that pattern. One, we're very successful. And two, the property goes up after we live in it consistently. We improve the property on our own, so he ends up having a better, his property appreciates. To answer your question specifically, why 9? To provide that safe environment for people to live in at the inexpensive amount that we require to live in our houses. That's what it takes to pay the bills. We provide wireless internet, every cable channel there is. The AC bills are very expensive, and we want the house to be able to save anywhere between 15 to 20% per week to put into a prudent reserve. So that's how we build savings accounts and are able to pay the rent payments.
Right.
How many, do you all share bedrooms?
Mr. Vince, he has asked for, and you were going to take it. That's okay.
Vince, do you want the mic or not?
I'm good, that's my house, the one right there that they're all talking about, the big tall one.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
And it's the cars you cannot park on the street there. I mean, you guys have to stay
Can
on
you
yours.
Okay,
We
just
cannot
to
hear you.
keep things on track, I think I understand the situation. The parking thing and the street issue is not only an Oxford issue, it's maybe a traffic issue. Just for the sake of time, let's maybe move on past the parking for a little bit.
Hi. I think it was part of the reason why you get the kind of reaction that you do is how to make your exempt. We don't know what your structure is. We don't know what your level of the kind of like, is there a house owner or a house owner? Is there somebody who's a point of contact? Because other than that, you really are like any other, all of us own homes, most of us own homes that we live in. Anybody who lived next door, Jack the Ripper, or Mother Teresa. It could be either one. And the fact is that anybody can go bad or go good. And we want to welcome you as neighbors and give you the best shot at having a
Right.
And what sort of information can you give us about your internal structure? Because obviously you don't live in all these houses. And so it sounds to me like there is no dead mother or house mother or house father. So is there an authority that says you're out, or that takes the element that is not following your plan and makes them leave?
With the time being short, can we plan another meeting because it's gonna be cut short, we don't have enough time.
Each of our houses pays $14 per bed per month to the chapter. Monthly. The chapter is comprised of all the other houses within the chapter's residence. Okay, and within that chapter are what we call housing service committees. And they make sure, now I want to tell you that this is a unique circumstance. Okay? And I want to tell you why it is. And it's not because we're opening an Oxford House in your neighborhood. I want to explain to you why I'm going to be hands-on with this house for quite some time. And I'm going to tell you why. And I doubt it was any of you in this room, but the mean, terrible things that were said, not about Oxford House, but about people in recovery, that I received from people that live in this neighborhood, that and as I stand in the church, terrible things. And I am going to personally give everything, every ounce of what I have, every fiber of my being, to making sure that this becomes a sound Oxford House. You know, and not because I'm trying to prove you wrong, but because I'm trying to show this neighborhood that alcoholics and drug addicts do and can recover. That's it, period. Just because I'm a felon, or these guys are felons, we're great people until we ingest drugs or alcohol. And I am gonna give this house my full effort and every ounce I have to make sure that the people in there are staying sober and it's an effective member of this community. It's not about, to me, this situation is not about Oxford House, and I understand that it is to you. My thing is that the perception is there's alcoholics and drug addicts in that house, but there's a big difference between practicing and not.
All right, in the back, there's. Go ahead. No, you have it. Go ahead. You're holding it.
Well, I just wanted clarification. If I heard you right, you said it was nonviolent crimes. So this would exclude records like armed robbery and child pornography, molestation, and no sexual offenders. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
So it's basically recovering addicts and alcoholics and those who try to distribute drugs, right?
What is...
I mean, one thing I wanted to say is I don't even have misdemeanors. I have a DUI that's been expunged back in 2008. That's the only crime that I have, but it's an alcohol-related crime. And as far as someone that's still trying to do the same thing that these guys are doing, you know, the process is this. When I came into the house that I am in, I got interviewed, and I got asked those questions. You know, do I have any violent crimes? Am I a sex offender? And, you know, if I answered unhonestly, then the house just goes and looks that up. So it's ensured that those do not move in. And then as part of that process, I interviewed the house. That's why I'm at the house that I'm at, because when I got out of treatment, I had a place to go. I could move back in with my dad. I got a divorce, so yeah, I couldn't move back in with my wife, but I was, not out on the streets, not out in the cold. But I needed another place to just bolster my program of recovery. And so I took the time to go back a second time to interview the house and make sure that the other guys were going to be what I needed to be around. They're going to be the ones that, you wanted to live next to. We're going to be the ones that I could count on to help me with keeping up the go. Or that I could be around and be sure that, I wasn't going to be the only one because I'm a clean freak to clean the house. I'm just a regular person that moved in. I don't have any felonies, but that was one of my biggest things. One of my questions for myself when I moved in was, am I going to be around a bunch of felons that are possibly violent, that are sex offenders? So I made makes sure of that. And it's, you know, it's,
Do you do criminal background record checks on everyone who's been coming out?
A lot of times, the people that interview from our house come like a sponsor. We go to 12-step meetings, all of us do regularly. Okay, and we'll have, my sponsor will call me a lot of times and he'll say, hey, I got this guy that's been, he's coming to the meeting, I'm sponsoring him, could he get an interview over at the house? In the case like that, where they come out of a 12-step meeting, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that every single person is background checked, but a big majority of them are. We don't have anything in our model that says you must check this person's background before you vote them in. It happens, Steve just said their house does on every one. If my sponsor called me and said he had a guy for us to interview, our house would probably interview him and know up front that something's, you know, we'll ask him in the interview. And if we sense something or something, absolutely. I just don't want to tell you that it's occurring every single time because that would be a lie. They're democratically voted in. And some houses do, and I can guarantee you that if we find later on, our application is very thorough, and you can go online and look at it. I've seen people evicted many, many times for lying on an application. For something as simple as have you ever lived in an Oxford house before? And if they say no, and then we find out that 3 or 4 years ago, they lived in a house on the other side of town and owe them $200, we're going to say, you've got to pay it or go. And then you lied on your application. Motion to evict. We do check the majority of people, but I just don't want to sit there. There's nowhere in our literature that it says every person that it interviews must be checked.
Okay.
Could I? Yeah, do you carry liability?
Charles, you got a question back here, then we'll come up here.
I'm James. My family and I live at 67th and Shawnee in a light stucco house. And I'm the guy that reached out to Mr. Hahn to see if he could come and speak with us today. He and I have had a lot of intense, probably impassioned conversations over the last few days, but we've been talking. And like the gentleman in the beautiful orange sweatshirt over there said, communication Senator Yin hates OSU. So much can be solved by talking. I was wondering, you mentioned that you guys have a weekly house meeting. How would you feel if the neighborhood, our association, elected a representative who might come to those meetings? We don't vote, maybe we only come to part of them, and maybe we don't always come. But that way, if there's an issue that the neighborhood has, we have somebody that you all know to come bring it to you. And if there's an issue that you guys have, you got somebody to deliver it back to me.
That's all we're asking.
You be comfortable with that?
That's what we want. That's all we're asking.
This has to be the last one, Kevin.
Do you carry liability? I have 3 questions. Do you carry liability insurance? Who is on your board of directors or your trustees? And do you have any relationship with any level of government, city, state, or federal government?
Okay.
You want this quick? We got 5
I'm not
minutes.
able to answer any questions about the federal government, city government, any of that.
Why not?
What I am able to say is we do have a board of directors, and they are all stationed out, they're from all over the country, and they meet on a regular basis.
Sorry to cut you off. We're gonna take one last question here.
We're not required to, no.
We're gonna take one last question here, and any other questions or information that they can get from you, Dan, I'm assuming.
I'm gonna set some brochures up here, if that's okay, can I do that?
Okay.
And on the inside cover here at the top, my name, Dan Holland, is the first number. Try to take it easy on me, but you can call me anytime.
Okay, so you'll get that. We got this question here, and then unfortunately we have to wrap it up because Mayflower has to shut this down at 5 o'clock.
I would just ask you, I can understand with all the comments you get where you might get defensive sometime and fall back on what you're going to do legally. I would ask you to go beyond that for this and do what you do as a good neighbor. You know, for instance, on the parking. If it's even though it might be illegal for you to park someplace particular, if it would be a little better situation for the neighborhood, as we'd ask for any of the neighbors that might live there. So just try to be a good neighbor with us. And
I promise you we will. I wanted to come speak with this gentleman. What was his name again, sir? Yeah, Vince, me and Vince, I gave him my phone number because I wanted to talk to him about it because he's the man on the scene there. Absolutely, we wanna do whatever we can to take it.
Okay, well, listen, unfortunately, I have to wrap it up. Thank you all so much for coming out. If you have any other questions, let them know.
Somebody's got a, somebody's got.
Oh, someone has his certificate. I think, right?